Test, test.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
It's good, better, yeah.
Well, let's make people talk before Mr. Smith goes to Washington style.
Morning.
Morning, John.
Good morning.
Morning, Mary. Mary?
It is. How are you? I'm only able to be on for about 20 minutes because I just got back from my blood work and I've got my meeting starting at 8 o'clock. So I'll only be on for a short time, unfortunately. So I apologize to Mike McKenna for bowing out early, and I'm sorry for that.
Who's speaking today?
Mike McKenna.
Mike McKenna.
Yeah.
What is that green phone in the middle of my screen?
That's Mary.
Oh,
Oh, in the middle.
Oh, I'm a green phone. Hey.
I see. How come John is, when John speaks, his whole face, he covers up the whole screen and I'm in a little square at the bottom? Why is that? Why is that?
Must be, maybe it's an ego thing. Who knows?
It's like that sign with your neighbor.
That's right. Morning, Bill Fisk. Are you?
Morning, John.
Good, you unmuted. Morning.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get warm weather, guys. It's already warmer than most mornings right now. There's
50,
my,
60 degrees, huh? Not
Yeah.
today, huh?
no, what, day after tomorrow or something?
Yeah.
What's that going to do to your skiing?
Oh, it won't change it too much. I mean, it'll settle it all down and some of the snow will go away, but there's so much snow up there that it won't end the skiing for sure.
That's good.
Mike McKenna's Peter did pretty well in the States, didn't he?
Yeah, the team did great. They missed first place by 4 points, and that was a little tough, but they did really great.
Yeah. And Peter had a couple of good races, especially in the skate, right?
Yes, he did. Yep, he that was his stronger discipline yesterday for sure.
And he wasn't far behind. I mean, it's not like he was, 7 minutes or something. He was
seconds. Yeah, seconds behind, and so just a couple more seconds, it would have made a big difference. But that's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's considering he's pretty new to the sport, isn't he?
Yeah, this is his third year, and he really is excited and enthusiastic about it and really committed to the sport. So he trained a lot last summer on roller skis, and that really made a difference.
Yeah.
And what year is he?
He's a sophomore.
Nice.
Yeah, and then these two freshmen on the team, Carson Thurber's nephew, Riley, and Finn Payne, and that's Tim Payne's son, the principal at the middle school. Those two kids are super fast, and there's another kid from Wilmington that trains with Mount Anthony, and his name is Luke Rizzio. So he took second in both disciplines yesterday. And the tough thing about for Luke is the fact that Twin Valley, which is the school in Wilmington, does not have a team. And so he races as an individual, and we're trying like mad to have him join Mount Anthony, but it's got to get approved by Montpelier and all this other, the Vermont Principals
gosh.
Association and stuff.
Now they believe so much in merging. I mean, we can remind them of that.
Exactly, exactly.
Hey, speaking of great, what a job you and David did.
Oh
raising
yeah,
the
that
money for the SVC.
yeah, it was really pretty cool. A lot of excitement, a lot of donations in a 28-day period. It was just pretty amazing. And so that's exciting to see the community come together for sure.
Well, thanks for your effort. That was really, what an effort. Wow.
Yeah, thanks. And
Yeah.
that Dave Newell was pretty great too, and he had a vested interest in both the hospital and the school. He'd served both, with volunteer efforts on their boards. So that was kind of nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
They're still
Good
worried
job.
about what they're going to do with the Lomeister thing. They don't know that yet.
Yeah. That one's kind of tied up in the courts, and Dave explained it to me in like a quick 30 seconds, and it made my head spin. But yeah, it's tied up, and the Lowmeisters still have an interest in it. Of course, that's part of it, and it costs a lot of money, I guess, to maintain. It's a beautiful venue. Of course, we had our auctions there, and that wine auction, and but we'll see what happens. One thing at a time, I guess, right? I mean,
That's
the
right.
college is enough at the moment.
So what did you do to raise the money? Did you write letters to people? Did you make phone calls? What'd you do?
Yep, a little bit of everything. So what I did was, so it was really kind of a community-led effort, to support the hospital. Now the hospital supported the effort as well, right? They backed us up, and so they sent out a ton of letters. I sent out some personal letters. I made a couple phone calls, which isn't my strength, but I got better at it. And just really, as an ambassador, just talked it up to anybody that had any questions. And so between the efforts of CAT TV, the Chamber of Commerce did a lot of targeted emails, and then also CAT TV. Oh, of course, the banner was really supportive. And then all the letters to the editor were volunteered in. Donnie Wasik had a great one. Don Campbell's letter was really terrific, and he's on the select board, of course. So there's a lot of leadership support from the community members, which was great.
Terrific. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled that they did it. So
Yeah. Now it's funny. A lot of people stop me in the street. Hey, what you should do up there? You should put a little like 9-hole golf course and this, that, the other thing. It's kind of funny. But that's where Brian lent and his efforts. So he was hired by the hospital to run the college, and I guess his title is project manager. But so he's working with a consulting firm a national consulting firm with their local offices out of New Hampshire, and this consulting firm does healthcare consulting for hospitals on all aspects. And I guess our hospitals use this firm quite a bit in the past. And then he's also working with BCRC to try to, brainstorm and make sure it is a community asset, not just for the hospital. So there's a lot of planning that's going into it and will go into it. So.
yeah, I think it's all exciting. All exciting.
Sure is.
So are you speaking today, Michael?
I am at some point.
At some point. Okay. Let's see. It's now, we can wait 2 more minutes just to see if anybody else comes on. I've been handing out the coffee mugs. I haven't gotten to Clayton yet. I haven't, TR. He spoke and he deserves to get a coffee mug.
Hi, TR.
I could just drop it off at your place.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
If you wanted to drop off a second one, I would put it in the mail to the doctor that spoke a few weeks ago.
Oh, that'd be great. I don't have his address. I was looking for that. I even bought some boxes so we could put them in we could box them and mail them.
Okay,
So I'll bring a box with it, okay?
sounds good.
I'm sure you have boxes there at the office, but
We do. Yeah.
no, good. Okay, what have we decided before we get into Mike McKenna? Let's just talk a little bit about what is going on for this month from a meeting point of view. And are we having a social? Are they doing a social? Do you know?
I haven't seen anything sent out for this.
The social, I believe, is on Thursday.
Yeah, I was gonna say it should be this week, the second week of the month.
Right. Okay.
Well, I
Does
can
that mean-
check because he usually sends it to me.
Okay. Does that mean we're not going to have a meeting next week?
No, we will have one next week. Yep.
Okay.
We have, I have to touch base with Steve Love. He's in charge of the speaker for next week. And Miss Jenica is on the 23rd.
Okay.
Even though I
Good.
got Brian.
I do my best to fill your slot. I do have two
Okay.
people that have
Oh.
said they would.
I have an idea. I'll try to
Okay.
make it
If it
happen.
doesn't work out in the next few days, give a shout.
Okay.
And the Dr. Caldwell that spoke a few weeks ago, he said he would be on standby because he also exercises to help with your immune system to go along with his eating right or his rainbow speech he gave us.
Well, I've been taking my vinegar.
I have two. I forgot it today because of Rotary, but I will have it later. Do you feel differently, John?
I don't know if I feel a lot different. I think it is good for me, so I do it, and I don't mind doing it. I have to take my statin and a couple of pills in the morning, so I just put a little vinegar in the water and drink a whole glass. That's it.
Wow.
That was what he indicated, I think, and
Yes, he did.
I did buy some Goli also, which is supposed to have vinegar and be good for you. So, I took notes, and we were going to get some information from him. TR, do you remember?
Yeah.
He was going to send us a sheet or something.
He
I
did.
don't know if
He did. Yeah, we got it.
I did. I don't. Okay, I'll have to look into up, see if I got it.
I sent it through Club Runner a day or two after he spoke. I don't know, it was 5 or 6 pages of notes if I remember correctly.
Uh,
I can send it to you again, John.
That'd be great. Sometimes it goes to my Gmail instead of to my Vermont Mill, and I don't look it up enough on Gmail because I don't use it. So
I sent it through Club Runners, so it should go to your John at Vermont Mills, I think, is what
that's right,
that up there.
Vermont Mill, right?
Yeah.
I'll check it again. Okay.
Okay.
What about dues? We haven't made a conclusion as to what we're doing about dues. We should do something with that. When do we normally do it, Jim?
We usually do it in January and July for each
Right.
6 months.
And what is the consensus of the club?
Stay on schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it's time to start sending dues bills out again.
So
Start
do I.
Rotary year is the new Rotary year is July 1st, so sometime in late May or early June, we can get them out
That's it.
for July through December.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also
that-
a little curious as to whether we would ever go back to the country club. Was there a discussion of going somewhere else? or meet outside, or I was wondering, it's sort of lost its momentum. Would we ever go back there? Well,
I
you know,
think so.
just because it's going to be warm today and tomorrow, I guess my thoughts have turned a little less away from winter.
Did you hear the latest report, or did you hear the report yesterday from the CDC on the virus and the vaccines and the new guidelines for their recommendation of how we should behave?
Yeah,
Did you hear that, all of that with the
even if you're
shots?
vaccinated, you need to be careful. Yeah, I did hear
And
some.
they also recommended not getting together in large groups, just small numbers of people, mostly family members or people close to you. So I don't think we're ready yet to.
Oh, no.
meet
No,
at
I
the
don't mean,
club.
now. I mean late summer or something. I'm not talking now. I'm really talking much later in the year, late summer.
Well, I listened to the news this morning and I think that he said that it's going to change. Every few weeks, you're going to see the CDC come out with new changes. So
That's
I
right.
think, Kathy, I think the country club would be a good thing to go back to when they approve it, you know, when CDC approves it, which may happen as early as July. Now, but some of it depends on who gets their shots. I mean, I've had
That's right.
both my shots, and I've been free for 2 weeks, so I'm pretty well on the move to communicate with other people that have the same thing. In fact, I have my laminated
I'm gonna get mine soon.
and so, but they indicated on that CDC report, Alice, that that people should carry them, and they should, if you're going to have get-togethers of small numbers,
That's right.
they should have their card with them that they've been vaccinated.
Sure, I think the more people vaccinated, hopefully the numbers of cases will continue to drop. But I think the big worry now is the variant. There's been one case in Burlington, just one, but who knows? I think we just have to play it by ear and see what happens.
I think that's right.
Plus, we
And I
don't
think
even we don't know, even though it looks awfully good, we don't know how the vaccine's going to come out. That all has to be looked at and studied in data collection.
Yeah.
Meaning, are all the people who have had their shots okay?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Well, I think like he said, we just have to keep listening to the CDC and their reports as to the data they develop.
That's
And
right. That's right.
so we should discuss it at other meetings, but I don't think we should throw away the Mount Anthony thing as of when they allow us to. And I'm enjoying this, and maybe I hope everybody else is. The Zoom is not a problem for me. I mean, I would like to get together, but you know, this has been a good way for us to communicate and a good way for us to have speakers like Mike McKenna.
The programs have been terrific.
Yeah, they have been. They've been great. So it's 1:15. Is there other business before we get,
Is Mike there?
Yes.
Oh,
Good morning.
oh,
morning.
I don't know. I wanted to congratulate you, Mike, on that amazing fundraiser for the hospital.
Oh, thank you.
You can
Thank
take
you.
over all the fundraisers.
Yeah.
Well,
That was a quick one.
it was a quick one, short and sweet. And I'm on the foundation board and I'm the chair of the annual fund. And so, there'll be more in the future, but purely a volunteer effort. I don't work for the hospital but it's great. I like supporting the hospital. It's an easy one for me to get excited about.
Yeah, and congratulations to Peter for all his hard work.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited for the girls for tomorrow, except it's going to be super warm tomorrow. And
I know.
last year's states, it was like 55 degrees and it was miserable. I mean, it was a beautiful sunny day. Everybody got sunburned, but tough to ski in. And the boys, so when I drove them up there, and we went up the night before, and it was really difficult for a dad because they are very strict up at Craftsbury. You drop off and you leave.
Right.
And if you're not skiing. And it was about 4 below when we got there yesterday. But it was,
My
it was
God.
very dry and it wasn't windy, so it wasn't terrible. But then on tomorrow, it will be 50. Completely different.
Yeah.
A lot of snow up there, Mike.
We have more down here.
Well, that's
And-
good, because if it warms up, it'll pack in better. If there's an awful lot of snow, it just turns into mush.
Right. And they do a great job up there.
Yeah.
They've got it dialed in. In fact, not to get too much on a sidetrack here, but as I was driving to Craftsbury yesterday morning, we came upon this field that must have been, I don't know if it was a half a mile away, at least half a mile away. And what I saw was this giant snow gun in the middle of a field shooting snow. And it looked like a sprinkler system for a farm from the Midwest. And I heard from somebody that they make a ton of snow right now, and they save it. They cover it with wood chips so they
Yeah.
can ski through the summer.
Huh,
which is
really?
amazing. Yeah. Which is crazy. I guess it's a project with UVM, and they're science majors are up there, bio majors are doing this, and it was a pretty impressive site. But
Yeah, I've seen a site like that in Canada with they're the Canadian Olympic team, and in summer they've got this mound of snow all covered, like you say, and like the old, I suppose the ice houses, right?
Yep.
And they
Yep.
used to save their ice. Yeah, so congratulations to the
I think
MAT.
Kathy made a great suggestion. I think that, there's always been the concern in Vermont that we have more nonprofits who need money than there are Vermonters to support them all. But now that we know, Mike, that you can raise
I know.
$50 in a couple of days.
That's right.
you
Yeah,
can
that's
run them
untrue.
all. You run them all.
Yeah, we could all turn to Mike now, all the
All
nonprofits.
turn to Mike.
Okay, are we, any other business before we start? We should have the, I bring it every time. We should pledge allegiance to the flag.
I agree.
Yeah.
Jim, you want to start us off? I don't think he heard me. Everybody's on mute. I pledge allegiance to
To the flag
To the
the United
flag.
States of
States of
America
America,
and to the republic
The republic
stands
which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
one nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and
with
justice for all.
for all.
Okay. All right. TR, you want to,
Sure.
four-way test?
The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is
Is it the truth?
second,
Good.
is it fair
Fair
to all?
to all
Fair to
concerned.
all concerned.
Third,
Bill,
will it
Will
build
build goodwill and better.
And better friendship.
Fourth,
Fourth, will it be beneficial to all
Beneficial to all
concerned?
concerned.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. Is it, Mike, I think we're going to put you on the stage,
Okay.
and obviously we don't need to introduce you. So thanks for doing this, and that's great.
Absolutely, no problem. So I got an email from Bill a few weeks ago. I don't know how long ago, maybe it was a month ago, asking about possibly talking about this GameStop phenomenon and what's going on with that. And I'm glad to do it. It's been really interesting. And then it got kind of quiet on GameStop, and now it's getting kind of noisy again. So I thought what I would do today is just kind of take a look sorry about that. Take a look at what's going on and try to explain a little bit, because it is kind of interesting, and it's certainly getting all the headlines. But basically, GameStop, does everybody know what GameStop is? Is there anybody that doesn't know what GameStop is? Let's start with that. So GameStop is, it's an interesting company. They are, I've heard of the analogy that they're essentially like Blockbuster Video for video games. And it's a retail store. We see them in all the malls. And basically you can go in and buy a game or some gaming equipment and get your stuff there. And however, with the advent of the internet, a lot of these retail stores are suffering, and GameStop is as well. In fact, I don't think they've made money for the last 2 years. And so the value of the company is changing. And so basically, when it comes to investing, typically when we think about investing for all of us here, we typically buy a security, a stock, or we might have a mutual fund that might buy an individual stock. And the idea is that you buy it with the intention of selling it someday. And so buy low, sell high. And while we wait for it, sometimes the company will pay a dividend. GameStop does not, but other companies do, like Johnson & Johnson or IBM or General Motors and so forth. But in this particular case with GameStop, we're looking for what's just simply capital appreciation, buy low, sell high. And there's another way. Oh, and the nice thing about buying stocks like this, we're actually part owner of the company. And one of the nice things about stock ownership is we're limited to our exposure to the company. So the company can go out of business. If we put $1,000 into GameStop, and if they go out of business, we're only on the hook for $1,000 in this example. Creditors can't come back to me as an owner of the company and say, hey, listen, you owe me X amount of dollars because we lent you this money or what have you. That doesn't happen with stock ownership. So we're really only limited to $1,000 in my particular example. There's another way of investing that's completely different and completely contrary to what I just described. And that's basically where you want a stock to fall in value. Okay, so it's kind of the complete opposite. So that particular process is called shorting. So you might see GameStop trading at $35 a share, and based on your research and thoughts, you might be thinking this company's going to go out of business and this company is way overvalued and people are getting it wrong. And that's what Wall Street is, right? It's really, at the end of the day, it's differences of opinions. I might think one thing, Jim might think something different, and we come to in between here, we make a market and we do a transaction. But the way this method of investing, where you want the stock to go down, there's a way to do it, and it's called you're shorting a stock. And the way it works is you effectively, or you with your brokerage firm, you can borrow shares of this GameStop and sell it today and sell it at $50. And you take profit for that today because you anticipate you can buy it back and return it to the person that lent it to you. You can buy it back at a lower price. So the idea would be you sell it today at 50, and then maybe 6 months from now you buy it back at 25. You close out your position, you return the stock to somebody, and you've made, if you bought 100 shares, you made $2,500, right? So you bought 100 at, you sold 100 at 50, so it's 5,000. You bought it back at 2,500. You net a gain of 2,500. So that's called shorting. Something that all of us here today probably have not done, and I really wouldn't recommend it. Now, the problem that can happen with these shorts is that the stock can go the other direction. So if I sold it at 50, I borrowed it. And by the way, as I borrow it, I have to pay interest on that loan for those shares. Okay, so it costs me money. while I've sold the stock and I haven't closed out my position yet. But the risk is that the stock can go the other way. So it can go up to, let's just say it goes up to 75. Okay, I sold it at 50. Now it's at 75. So on paper, I am down $2,500. And in order for me to close out my position, I might say, you know what, I'm not going to lose any more money. I have to go buy the stock and return it to the person that lent it to me. So I pay $7,500, return it to that person, and I'm out $2,500. I sold it at 50, but then closed my position at 7,500. So therefore I'm out $2,500. Now the stock could go up to the moon, right? And so there's unlimited liability when you short a stock. Now, just a moment ago, when I said when we buy shares and we own shares of GameStop, you know, if it goes to zero, well, we're only out our investment, our initial investment. It doesn't go into negatives, and you know, they can't come and take more money than our original investment. However, if you short a stock, it can really get super expensive. This type of investing is really not for many people. It's difficult, you know. And over the long haul, going back to 1926, being long when we buy and own a company, historically speaking, we get about 10% growth per year from investing long in stocks. And that's the best returning asset class out there. It's way better than real estate, oil, gold, bonds. And so that's why so many people invest in the stock market, whether it's through their 401k or what have you. But this shorting thing is really different. And it's really what created all this excitement with GameStop. So excuse me 1 second, so I just double check a couple of my notes. So what happened was with GameStop in particular, and other companies, but GameStop in particular, is that a lot of these professional investment companies called hedge funds had used GameStop as an investment in their portfolios. And what they did is they shorted this particular stock, and they shorted it a lot based on, you know, their research. I'm not sure if it's exactly like I said, but where they thought this company or the business model that GameStop had is not going to succeed in this world of internet. I've got two boys and they have an Xbox, and they've never gone to GameStop. And all they do is they download off the internet directly to their Xbox. And once they own the software, they play with it, they tire of it, they uninstall it, they can reinstall it later, but you don't need to go to a physical store, a bricks and mortar place to do this. So anyway, these hedge fund companies and these hedge fund investors, hedge fund companies have the ability to do all sorts of things that regular retail investors like us typically wouldn't do. And so they often short these companies. And they did. Now what added to, and they were making money at it, certainly on paper. They had these open positions. They hadn't closed out the positions. They hadn't gone back to buy these shares of GameStop to return to the people that lent them the shares. So they were exposed, and they had paper profits. Now what happened was, in particular, there's this blog, and I'm showing my age a little bit, so if I'm saying it wrong, anybody can chime in and help me with this, but there's this thing called Reddit. And I think it's a blog, it's an online thing. And what is it? Jenica, you're muted. I'd love to hear your comments.
I wouldn't describe it as a blog, because blog is usually written by one person and then like you could comment on it, but Reddit is like divided into all sorts of different interests and anyone can contribute.
So what would you call Reddit? Like a forum, or what would you call it?
Yeah, I think that's more like it.
Okay. So Reddit has this, they have all sorts of things, like Jenica was saying, all sorts of topics of interest, and in particular for my conversation, there is a division called Wall Street Bets. Okay. And what happened on Wall Street Bets, somebody had identified this huge short interest in GameStop. And what happened was this Wall Street Bets forum started to get a lot of attention, and people were making comments about this GameStop, and they were able to deliver a message. And it wasn't so much the forum itself, but the people in the forum commenting and building momentum in this message that, hey, listen, there's a lot of exposure on GameStop. And they figured it out. It was the hedge funds. Now, the hedge funds don't have to report if they've shorted a stock or not. They don't have to publicly report that, excuse me. But they do have other reporting requirements where that they bought special contracts to effectively do the same thing. They do have to report that. So what these Reddit users did is they found who had the exposure, what companies had the exposure to being short. And they decided if we buy the stock before they do, we can drive up the price by buying long. Okay. And I've got a tickle. I'm sorry, you guys. Give me 1 second, please. So what they did effectively is they got together as millions of individuals and started buying the stock. So think back to my message about shorting a few moments ago. If the stock starts to go up in value in the shorting world, you're losing money. You're starting to lose money. So what happened was the momentum just grew so fast on this GameStop. It caught a lot of short investors off guard because it moved huge amounts. In fact, I was just taking a look. At the end of 2020, GameStop, I think, was trading right around the $17 range. It had gotten as low as $3.85 in the summer of last summer, $3.85. It finished the year around 17. So even from 385 to 17, if we were long, if we bought the stock, we're loving it. We're up over fourfold just from our $3 investment. So what happened was the buying momentum, and then it became a movement. Let's stick it to the hedge funds, okay? And I feel for the hedge funds. Now the hedge funds, they get a bad rap for a lot of reasons. Some of it they bring on themselves, but the media was part of the problem on this thing too, because they kept reporting about it, and then it started attracting a lot of investors that were really out of their league to do this. But what happened was the media was saying it's a war between the hedge funds and the individual investor, and the individual investor is going to, get revenge. Well, the hedge funds aren't out there to stick it to individual investors ever, and they're making money for their clients, but they're not trying to make money at our expense. And but that's what it became. So that's what really worked for these Reddit users or the Wall Street Bet users. And so there's this huge groundswell of momentum building. So then as people started buying more and more of the stock, there's more supply than there is demand, the price starts to go up. And then it gets really compounded because all these hedge funds that shorted the stock, they want to go back in and get out now. Okay, so they have to go to the market themselves and buy the stock to return it to the borrowers. Okay, so all of a sudden there's this huge amount of momentum driving the stock through the roof, and it got as high as $483 on January 29th. Yeah.
I wish I had it.
Well, well, so that, who said that? Does that you?
That was
Kath?
me. No,
Yeah.
I would never have it.
Well, you make a very good point. Okay. And that's how I look at it. So I'm a fundamental investor kind of guy. I buy any company based on its prospects, based on what they do and this, that, and the other thing, as a long investor. And if I think the company's going out of business, why would I buy it in the first place?
Right.
You know? And so what this has become is a really a Wall Street bet. Okay. So people are really gambling on this stuff. And what makes it even crazier is there are ways to get exposure on the long side without owning the stock as well. And that's through derivatives. They're called derivatives or options. You can buy contracts to buy the stock at, let's just say, $50. Okay. So it's a contract to buy the stock at $50, but you only pay maybe $1,000 for the contract as opposed to $5,000 for the actual stock. And so that gives you a lot of exposure for smaller amounts of money. And as the price of the stock goes up, so does the value of your contract. So it really got crazy, and it's getting crazy again. It's getting crazy again, and I'll explain that in a minute. But today, I think I saw it's back over $250, and it's gone up in value. It tripled in value last 2 weeks, and it was up 50% yesterday, and maybe 35 or 40% pre-market today. So, what makes things even crazier about the situation is the people investing in this on the long side, not the hedge funds, but the retail investor, the regular Joes like us. People don't realize what they're getting into. And there's this trading platform called Robinhood, and that's been part of this whole excitement with GameStop as well. And Robinhood really, it's zero commissions. You can go on there and do anything for free. And it really is targeting young men, from 18 to, 40 years old, or 25, 30 or 40 years old. And it's playing to their psyche. And so all of this is coming together, with COVID. People are at home. You can't bet on professional sports because that was really shut down for 2020. And now it's starting to open again. And then on top of it, the government's sending everybody money. And a lot of this money that's coming in stimulus is going to this gambling forum. It's really a gambling forum. And it's really unfortunate. And a lot of investors are losing money because as the stock comes down, if you're a long investor, if you bought it at $200 a share, thinking because based on what you read on Wall Street Bets, it's going to go to 400, 500, 600, and then it drops down to 50 again, you're out. And so I've actually gotten phone calls where people said, listen, a CEO of a company younger than me, but said, hey, listen, I lost $25,000 in Wall Street Bets, and to GameStop. And I can't do this anymore. I got to focus on being a CEO, and he wanted to come to me to invest his money. And so a lot of people are getting hurt on this as well.
What little he had left.
Right. What he had left. Right. So that's what's kind of going on right now. Let me just see if I can see some other notes in here. So so now the stock is going bananas again. They have, it's all trading on news. And I personally believe it's not so much they're organizing at Wall Street Bets to stick it to the hedge fund companies. I personally believe within Wall Street Bets, within the Reddit community, it's getting kind of predatory amongst themselves. So there are some people out there that know more than the average investor. And as they, and the SEC is looking into this, as they have this forum and talk up a stock, are they actually doing the opposite to what their comments are suggesting? And I think that's probably happening. And they're not going after the hedge fund. They're going after the unintelligent money. So the smart money, we are never considered the smart money, but the big institutions like the hedge funds or the mutual funds or pension plans, they're often considered the smart money. But I think what's happening is within Wall Street Bets, they're going after each other a little bit, which is too bad. because for every winner there's also a loser on the other side.
Hmm.
So
Is there
effectively,
any element of pump and dump in this?
well, that's what the SEC is looking for sure. And they are tracking every kind of comment they can. The government's getting involved because don't forget too, the SEC has the obligation to make sure it's a not so much a safe environment. They recognize people will lose money. I mean, that's what a free market does. There's people that make money and people that lose money. But the pumping and dumping, or the churn and burn or whatever you want to call it, that's illegal. If you say one thing, you do the other, that's illegal. And what's going on with, it's really interesting. Now, when I have an obligation to the SEC that, there's this policy or philosophy, you have to know your client. And then how can Robinhood possibly know their clients where they let them do all this fancy trading that if they came to see me, I would never allow them to do it because it wouldn't be appropriate based on somebody's experience. But at Robinhood, you can definitely do this, So there's all sorts of stuff trying to protect the investor. And that's really what it comes down to, is protecting the investor. Now, if somebody has the experience and, they've been doing this thing for years and they go ahead and they lose a lot of money, well, the SEC's, not there to protect them from losses, but trying to protect people from themselves, really, if they don't have the experience.
What are the fundamentals of GameStop?
Yeah, that's the question.
So they haven't made money in over 2 years. Okay. So again, as a fundamental investor myself, why would you buy a company that hasn't made money in over 2 years? Now, somebody might say, well, in anticipation of making money, you buy today. And I can get that. But I personally feel that, their model is not going to cut it. Now, what's driving the stock now is and what really started pushing the stock higher, they got somebody on their board who is somewhat famous. There's this young guy who started the online pet food company, Chewy, or pet supply company, Chewy. And he had success there, and he had a model that was able to compete against Amazon and successfully do that. So the news of this guy being on the board at GameStop kind of got the excitement going, and that's what's happening again this week. They're making plans to try to survive, going forward on a digital platform as opposed to your traditional bricks and mortar, mall store type of thing. And so now the excitement's revamping up, and when you see the stock move in these huge leaps, it's crazy. At one point, GameStop, just think about this. So if you think about the store of GameStop at the mall, I think certainly Crossgates had one. I'm not sure if Colony Center did, but the store itself is really one of the smaller stores. It's much bigger than a kiosk, but compared to the other stores, it looks like a kiosk. But at one point, GameStop itself had a value, the company had a value that was larger than Best Buy. Okay. And Best Buy sells everything, whereas GameStop sells clickers, the gaming controllers, they sell videos. That's how crazy it got.
Wow.
And people continue to pile in. And that's when the regulators started to say, hey, wait a minute, we got to check this out. And the other thing too, so we had a decline in the stock market right at the peak of the GameStop. And a lot of people are thinking all these hedge funds that had these huge short positions that were being squeezed out. Okay, the short squeeze was on, people were buying the stock, and all these hedge funds had to cover their positions. So what they had to do is sell a lot of their other stocks that they were long on to buy back the GameStop stock. So that's all that selling pressure from all these other stocks to cover their positions drove the whole stock market down at one point. That's what a lot of people feel. It's never been proven, but it kind of makes sense.
Wow.
Is it really worth $20 billion, this
No way.
GameStop?
No, I think it's going out of business. I don't think it's going to survive. So no, I don't think it's worth $20 billion. And the same thing, and you look at some of these other companies that were heavily shorted and all of a sudden we're going through the roof. BlackBerry. Okay, BlackBerry. Remember the old BlackBerry before the iPhone?
Yeah, the old BlackBerry.
Yep. So suddenly the value on that was going through the roof, and that was also a heavily shorted stock.
Cinemas.
I'm sorry?
Oh, cinema, the movies. Cinema.
AMC, yep. I was just going to say American Movie Cinemas, or I'm not sure what AMC stands for, but that's definitely one. I think Nokia also was part of that. Now Nokia will make it. They definitely do a lot that they're going to be around. They're a key player in 5G, but the stock had been heavily shorted, and so they were putting the squeeze on that as well. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to say.
Do puts and calls get in there as part of that?
Oh, 100%. So those are the contracts I was referring to.
Okay.
So a put, a lot of these hedge funds had shorted the stock. They didn't have to report that, but they also had these contracts where they could put the stock to somebody, okay? And that's another way of making money on a company's demise. So the way it would work is they would write this contract and sell it to you. And when you bought the contract is when they made money on it. And the idea was they could exercise the put and say, all right, when the stock hits $5 a share, you have to buy it from me for $50, okay? And that's called a put. And now you, the buyer of that contract, think the stock's going the other way, and you may or may not make money depending on how that works. But as far as the put contract is concerned, these hedge fund companies have to report that to the SEC. So that becomes a public record. And that's where these Reddit people saw the exposure, the extreme exposure to GameStop. And there's people out there that just all they do is record short interest, and they use that as a trading strategy, not an investment strategy. So none of this stuff is investment. This is all trading stuff. This is, in my opinion, gambling. You know, especially when you're looking at a company that has very little prospects of surviving, and it's trading at a value more than Best Buy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And it's up again.
Oh yeah, yeah. So now it's coming all back, you know. And I'm sure the Reddit board is going berserk. I think they had gone from 2 million subscribers to this particular Wall Street Bets to over 8 million in a week. And you know, you're hearing celebrities talking about their kids doing it, and it's just getting crazy. And
I would think that the SEC though would be on some of these board of directors for what Bill has said, pump and dump,
right?
Because I look at it, if they're losing money and I don't see a huge future in bricks and mortars in that marketplace,
right?
And they're selling at $20 billion.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So somebody's pumping and dumping somehow.
Right, right. Or using tools, and that's what the SEC is trying to figure out is, you know, these tools that they're using are legitimate tools, but if they are manipulating the stock market price of GameStop themselves by what they're saying, that's illegal. You know, if they can't do that. And there's all sorts of, you know, they track these posts. It's really amazing. And if you look back to Wall Street, the movie Wall Street from the 80s, there is, I forgot the name of this company that was in the movie, not a company, but I think it was a private company that the government had contracted with. They track this stuff, and they look at, you know, unusual activity in somebody's account. Martha Stewart got in trouble for this, and she went to jail for this, where she acted on insider information. So there's watchdog agencies out there working overtime on this right now. There's another company that was part of this, and it was called KOSS, K-O-S-S. And they've been around forever, and they make headsets. And it's a family business out of, I think, Michigan or something like that. And same sort of thing. This they can't compete with you know, with the Apple products, and these headsets are becoming old-fashioned, but they're still in there. It's a family business. And so the stock was shorted, but then Wall Street Bets found it and they started driving it up. And then what KOSS did was they started selling their stock. It's like, great, I'm gonna get rid of my position. And then all of a sudden, socially, well, wait a minute, that's not very nice of you, Cost, because now everybody that bought your stock is now losing money. So it's really a conundrum, because that's what the free market's for, is, buying and selling. They saw it was unreasonably priced, and they sold. And now what a lot of people are saying with GameStop, what they should do is sell more of the company to the public and raise money to try to survive, right? And but then wait a minute, how, if it's unfairly priced today, is that really ethical for GameStop to sell more stock? So if they sold it today, if they sold more stock to the public today, raised money, and then the stock craters, effectively they're shorting their own stock by selling it today, and then if they bought it back later, so it's really a phenomenon for sure. Totally, totally different than the buy and hold sort of thing that I certainly do, and most of us here have grown up on buy and hold, whether it's your mutual fund or individual securities.
What's the regulatory environment right now? Is the SEC being aggressive or not?
Oh, they are. In general, they are definitely becoming more and more aggressive. More and more rules and regs makes my compliance for the profession is getting harder and harder. And but that was all before GameStop, for sure.
Mhm.
And then as far as GameStop's concerned, there's a lot of pressure right now, and you can see that they're having congressional hearings talking about it. So yeah, it's garnering a lot of attention, and a lot of times these rules and regs, they're good. There's no doubt about it. If it's trying to protect the investor from hurting themselves, that's a good thing. Sometimes I think it goes so far, it's just, they can't see the forest through the trees sometimes. Sometimes the regulations are so difficult for the environment, it hurts the investor, because there's no professional. If they make it so difficult for professionals to do their business, it's going to, discourage future professionals from going into the business. And then all of a sudden the investor is left, trying to figure it out themselves. And so I don't know, it's a love-hate thing. with any regulatory authority, I guess. It's not just the SEC. But
you really think that the real reason for this GameStop problem is that there's so many more investors that are unprofessional and I'm not trying, some of them bright, but unprofessional in their approach to it, and not subject to the regulations you are. I'm not subject.
Or
to
they might be, so I would use the word inexperienced as opposed to unprofessional. So I think that's what you meant. But these inexperienced investors, and they're using these platforms that are just too loosey-goosey. And so when you do a Robinhood trade, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think you can only do it on your phone. And when you do your first trade, all these fireworks go off, and it really plays on dopamine,
Yeah.
and they've figured out a way to do this. And I have a problem with that. Yeah, for sure. I don't have the problem with the zero commission trades. I don't understand how they're going to survive on that. They get paid for, they ship out their trades to some other company and they get paid for that. But to try to make it it's like a video game. They're making investing or trading like a video game, and that's not right. I don't think that's right.
I think that you're right. I think it's too bad that we have left the professionals, like you and other people that do have regulatory situations, and the public really doesn't. I can call up, and go to Fidelity, and I can just buy and sell anything I want, whatever I want.
Right.
But I don't recommend jumping into options. I don't, and that's way too risky. I did it once, so I know. I did it once unsuccessfully. It's
a different way of investing for sure. Especially the shorting stuff. That's totally, against everything that you think. You save money and then you spend it. But shorting is you make the money and then you earn it later, or something like How's that work, you know?
Well, Mike, how long has shorting, like I hear about it more and more, the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years. How long has shorting been going on? Has it always been going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been around forever. And it's an
Part of it.
important part of the market itself.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody. It's clearly not for these people on Robinhood, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Let's see, what other good things can I tell you about? Hang on. Oh, so I want to thank TR. So TR sent this thing out yesterday. I had picked up, if you're going to buy, there's a couple print publications that are still available. Not everything's online. And I personally like to, pick up the Wall Street Journal and look at it. I look at it online too, but Kiplinger's, and this is the article from TR yesterday, Kiplinger's had a nice article. And if you want to, get one user-friendly publication, that's a really good one. It comes out once a month. And it's funny, I got my magazine, I think on Thursday or Friday of last week, and right on the front page, or in one of the first pages, was this whole discussion about GameStop. And then TR sent it to me yesterday, which was really great. And so thank you, TR. And if anybody wants to get a good publication, that's still a good one.
Well, how do you spell it, Mike? How do you spell it?
Oh, Kiplinger's?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's KIPLINGER''S. And that's a well-respected, publication on Wall Street, like the Wall Street Journal and Barron's. Those are the three that I read the most. Smart Money is a publication from the Wall Street Journal, and it's very similar to Kiplinger's, except it's all digital. But still, if you want to read that one, that's a good one too. But you're not going to get something to hold.
A little bit of that.
Any other questions? All right.
I guess you've convinced us not to jump in GameStop.
That's right. Well, it's so funny because I get phone calls or my boys want to learn about it. It's like, listen, you're going to have more fun going to the casino, and pulling that slot, not to my boys, but to, go buy another video game with that money as opposed to, losing it in GameStop, there's other ways to have fun than that. But
Some people have made a lot of money.
That's right. So they hear these stories. And of course, everybody that talks about their success, you never hear about their losers, right?
That's right.
And there's been plenty of losers along the way, but, it never seems to make it to the tip of their tongue.
Well,
Now,
thank you.
Great
very
job,
much.
Mike.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was-
Absolutely.
It
Incredibly
was
interesting.
helpful.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I don't need that coffee mug. I've got my other one. We'll save it for somebody else.
Yeah, we could have a whole
Okay.
set.
Okay. Good. Then I don't have to deliver another mug. No.
That's it.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Good enough. Is there any other questions? All right. Are we all set?
I'll ask a question.
Oh.
What do you see in the market for coming in the future? It's been
Good
so
question.
volatile, up hundreds one day, down hundreds the next.
Yep.
What do you?
So it's a long answer, but I'll see what I can do. It's really, really amazing. So take away the GameStop stuff. Back to the fun stuff is our economy. If the stock market's supposed to be a reflection of our economy, it's acting kind of in reverse at the moment. A measure of our economy is with gross domestic product, right? GDP. And we are the largest economy in the world. China, I think, is either second or third. But so we are the largest economy. And when we have a really good year, we're bumping up on 3% gross GDP growth, okay? Because of all this stimulus in the system and this reopening post-pandemic, there's going to be a lot of money flying around this year and next year as well. I get people in my office we're doing a review, and they're saying I have nowhere to spend my money. I'm flush with cash, but there's just nowhere to spend it because of the pandemic. And I'll tell you for a fact, historically speaking, the national savings rate is about 5%. Currently, it's about 14%. So as people have the ability to start to spend money, it's coming big time, okay? And 70% of our gross domestic product, our GDP, is consumerism. 70% of it is represented with us going out to GameStop or to Best Buy to buy stuff, you know, go on vacations or whatever it might be. And so now economists feel that our GDP growth this year could be, I heard a statistic yesterday, could be as high as 9%. I think that's a stretch. I feel 6 or 7% is more of the consensus. And that is huge for us, the largest economy in the world. So that's great news. You know, all these companies should start to come back to life, start making money again. People get their jobs back. People make money, can spend it again. We can tax them for it. So that will help hopefully lower our tax deficit. But why the stock market's been going down, however, is the fear of inflation. And we haven't had a serious threat of inflation for a long time. And now people are starting to worry when there's more demand than there is supply and everything goes up in price, they want to contain that. And there is a target of 2%. 2% inflation is actually a good thing. When assets grow, that's good. It costs us more at the gas pump, but our 401k statements should look pretty good too, okay? Now, when they have to put a lid on that because it's going too hot and they want to try to prevent a sudden downturn, the Fed will start to try to put limits on that inflationary growth, and that could slow our economy. It's a very fine line, and that's what's making people a little bit nervous right now. So even though economically speaking, things are looking great, it's not showing in the stock market as of yet. Now, personally, I believe the markets are going to figure it out between the rising interest rates and bonds and the stock market. It will figure out, and things will be okay. It's when yeah, go ahead.
So we have this debt that's looming over our head, like huge.
Right.
And I'm worried that this is going to come back to roost.
Right. Well,
and I should fear.
Yeah, because we have to pay it. Well, I don't know. I've been saying we've got to pay it back for my entire career. And we haven't had, I think Bill Clinton was the last one that had a zero deficit. So that goes back how many years, right? And unfortunately, some of this relief bill, this $1.9 trillion, unfortunately, a lot of it has nothing to do with COVID. And so there's reason to be concerned, because taxes will go up, right, Ron? We have to pay it back someday. Taxes will go up, right?
Do we have to pay it back?
Well, it's becoming somewhat cliche. We're sticking it to our kids and grandkids, but that's future generations are going to be paying back this money.
Unless they just devaluate everything and.
Right. That's right. A reason.
It just seems absurd to me that we're at 120 times GDP, our debt,
Right.
That doesn't seem fundamental.
I know. And unfortunately, you shouldn't worry about that so much. That's a definite headline, but there's been times when we've been more than that. But there have been really extreme circumstances like World War II, and other times where it kind of made sense. We had to spend the money, or the Great Depression, and we started borrowing money and spending it to get us out of the Great Depression. But when you start hearing things like there's this term called universal income, where it's non-refundable or not a refundable mandate, so you just get money from the government. And one of the candidates, that guy Yang that was running for president, he wanted to
Andrew Yang.
Andrew Yang, he wanted universal income. Everybody gets that qualifies would just get a $2,000 check a month. And then there's starting to be signs in this bill that might be coming. Not so much $2,000, but I think if you have children, you're going to get $300 to $600 a month, period.
Tax credit. Yeah.
No, not a tax credit.
No. Oh, I didn't realize that, because there's a tax credit too, isn't it, for kids?
Right. So they're discussing maybe just sending everybody that has children that qualifies just money every single month to their checking account. So I don't know. I don't want to talk politics, but that's kind of where I'm going, and I don't want to do that. So But to Ron's point, Ron, you're absolutely right. We gotta pay that back at some point. We gotta spend money, responsibly. How about that? Responsibly.
How high would you like your income taxes, Ron?
How would I like my what?
How high would you like your income taxes to go?
Well, if I got something back, like healthcare and schooling, I wouldn't mind it going up. But I'm not feeling as if anything's coming back other than these checks that show up in the mail.
Well, what about the Air Force and the Marines and the Navy and the Army protecting you?
Yeah.
What about the Centers for Disease Control? You got a whole list of
What
things.
about Mars?
US Forces.
What about going to Mars?
Yeah, the Mars lander, that's going to pay benefits in the future.
Yeah, it looks so dusty.
Well, I don't mind paying taxes. I mean, I do mind where they go.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So like
But-
Vermont now has a major problem with the pension.
Mhm.
And there's a
Yeah.
thing in
Major
today's
problem.
banner about it. Yeah. And we're as of last year, we are 4.5 billion underfunded in the pension for the teachers and state employees. And
Right.
I think it's expected to grow 95 million more underfundedness, if that's a word, this year. And so that's a problem. That's a problem.
It's a real problem. But it's true all over the nation. Vermont's really bad. I agree. But the nation has all of these, pensions that are unfunded.
That's right. And they didn't, the state didn't do their fair share for about 13 years. They didn't pay into it.
Right.
They just took from it instead of paying in.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Don't
That's
the
another thing
states-
the kids will have to pay for.
It's a liability.
Do
How
the
about this
states,
money that's coming from Washington? Can any of that be used to help us with the pension?
I don't know, that's a tricky one too.
Mm.
For the reason being, like, for example, if I know this is going to ruffle feathers, but you look at constant abuse, not abusers, but not a misappropriation, but not doing their job. Look at Chicago. Chicago, we've known about Chicago. The state of Illinois is like this close to being bankrupt, and therefore, their debt is worthless. And I don't want my federal tax dollars bailing out Chicago. So therefore, I shouldn't want the same for my state either. It's a tricky fine line to walk there for sure.
Sure.
There's
I don't wanna pay-
there's a few billion in the bill.
Hey, I'm stepping in here.
Yep.
Time.
Time. Okay.
I think we should continue this next week.
Okay.
Pensions.
This is a
It's
very
very-
lively conversation, but
I'll bring some.
All
teachers.
Very
Why don't you
interesting.
see if you can get the state
Finally.
secretary, state treasurer to come down and speak to us?
Oh, Beth Pierce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would
Oh,
you like,
Mike,
There's a good article in today's paper about it. A nice job. If you want to learn more about the pension situation, the banner has a nice article on it.
Okay.
Have a good week.
Thanks,
good
Mike.
idea, Bill. That's a
Thank
good
you.
idea.
Have a good
Michael,
week.
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mike. That's a good idea,
Bye.
Bill.